son who you'll meet and will be part of the tour today, and also is featured on the video. He's the 8th generation. I have another son that's the 8th generation, and a daughter that's the 8th generation that work in the company. Have you guys met Lane Bordelon?
Hi.
Lane will be part of the tour as well. This is Kevin. Now, Kevin's only going to be here another week. We're firing him on Friday. Actually, he's leaving to go work somewhere else in the seafood business. He's the generation that will break it.
Yeah, sorry.
Wow. Sounds like a slowdown.
Yeah, so I'm updating the will, and for some reason he's not in it. I don't know why. But anyway, no, Kevin's been here for 12 years now.
10
He's done a great job for us in marketing and sales, but Lane will do a better job. Anyway, I'm 7th generation, Kevin's 8th. I've already told you about the rest of the family. My brother Steve and I are twins, born and raised in actually Southern California. My father was born and raised here. Went out to Southern California. Thought it was heaven because it was 75 degrees during the day and 65 at night, and said that every day of the year was like fall or spring, and that's when our weather here is fabulous. We have good weather the rest of the year. It's colder and it's hotter, and I love South Louisiana. I love the people here in South Louisiana. However, when fall and spring occur, it's really pretty nice to be around here in terms of weather. Everything else, it's a wonderful culture, it's wonderful people. My forefathers were kicked out of France or exiled from France. Kevin probably knows that story better than I did. He speaks French and spent a couple of years over in France. Some went to Canada and some came directly to Louisiana. They were kicked out of Canada again, kind of the Cajun descent, if you would. And so far we've not gotten kicked out of South Louisiana. We haven't been exiled. And hopefully Katrina, Rita, Gustav, Ike, and Deepwater Horizon won't accomplish that either. It's been an interesting 5 years. They've said that if something doesn't kill you, it'll make you stronger. And I think we'll be stronger as a result of all of this, even though there are people that have fallen out of the wayside. Deepwater Horizon has created more havoc than either of the 4 major storms we've had over the last 5 years. It's created a lot of insecurity, uncertainty, and anxiety among the people in our region. It's been interesting. You know, one of the great things of South Louisiana is the family. It's part of our culture, and that family today is actually somewhat being treated like the Cajuns were when they were separated on vessels from Canada as they were being kicked out of Canada. Our families are being separated today. A lot of the oil and gas guys are being shipped off to Africa, being shipped off to Russia, being shipped off to Brazil as a result of this moratorium that's going on where we can't do deep water harvesting of oil. And also permits aren't being granted in the shallow water areas at this point. So it's a real challenge for our economy, our community, who we are culturally. The seafood community, I believe, will be fine in all of this. You know how many gallons of water there are in the Gulf of Mexico? You guys probably don't even know this number. I just got it the other day. There are 650 quadrillion gallons of water in the Gulf of Mexico. Do you know how many, in the 100 days that the Deepwater Horizon event occurred, how many gallons of water flowed down the Mississippi River full of dispersants? You know what dispersants are?
No.
Dawn dishwashing liquid. You put it into your dishwashers, you put it into your, when you do your clothes, you do it when you wash your hands. Those are basically dispersants as well. Now Corexit, which is being used on the soil spills, a dispersant, has a little different flavor to it, but it's basically the same. And there were 1.6 trillion gallons of water that came down the Mississippi River during that same 100 days or so of the event. That's lots of water in the Gulf of Mexico. And how many gallons of oil did the Deepwater Horizon spill? 200 million. Okay, how many gallons of dispersant were put on that? About 2 million. About 1.2 million above and about 800,000 below. Yet it created significant challenges, many fisheries closures, concerns about what it will do to the resource long term. But we're here to tell you about Motivated Seafoods, and I'll tell you about Motivated Seafoods. In Louisiana, we're in the oyster business. We have about a 10,000-acre oyster farm. There's about 1.6 million acres of public water bottoms in the state where during the season, it's set by the Wild and Fisheries Commission, you can harvest with proper licensing. It's a public resource. You have to take it by size and you have to take it during the season, but it's a public resource. Outside of that 1.6 million acres, there are 400,000 acres that are for farming. They're under lease by the state. The state owns all the water bottoms. They're under lease by the state, and we own 10,000 of those acres, and we basically have property rights. We plant the seed, we put the mulch material to hold the oysters up above the water bottom. Clams can actually live in the mud. Oysters have to be above the water bottom. We are bottom harvesters here. So we put a mulch material down, put oysters and seed on top, and then it grows out. It takes 2 to 4 years, depending on the part of the state. Oysters reproduce twice a year, spring and fall, when water temperatures hit about 70 degrees. They can reproduce 1 million plus times each. If we get a 1 or 2% reproductive survival, we've got more oysters than we know what to do with. We produce 250 million in the state, 250 million in-shell pounds of oysters, or about 750 million oysters. That's over a third of the United States oyster production.
This is every year?
Every year, except the next 2.
Can you repeat what you said about the clams and the oysters?
Just oysters. Oh, clams live in the mud, actually. Oysters live above the mud.
More than a third in the country, you said?
More than a third in the country.
Besides this year?
Besides, well, in 2006 was a bad year. Right after Hurricane Katrina, 2007 was not a real good year. And we came back in 2008, and of course we had Gustav and Ike that grounded us then. And now 2009 was an okay year. 2010 was great until April 20th. Did you have a question?
Yeah, you say you plant them. What do you put? Baby oyster there?
Yeah, seed, small oysters. And then there's also natural reproduction.
Oh, okay.
Oysters, there's males and females. They change sex during their lives.
How much do you have to depend that? 50%?
Yeah, they do.
50% natural, 50% planted?
It's maybe 30% planted and 70% natural. So it's more natural than it is planted.
Did you say that you produce about a third of the oysters in the country?
Yeah, in Louisiana, not our company. We produce about 10% of the state's oysters in our country. Which is about, whatever that is, 20 million times or so, 25 million, depending on the year. We're 7 to 10 or 11% of the state's production. So we're one of the larger producers in the state.